How's it going, everyone? Today we're going to be reviewing the two best top laners in the world at the moment, Bin versus Zeus, playing up against each other on the world stage. We're going to be reviewing their laning, team fighting, their mid-game macro, everything that makes these two the best in their role. So if you're curious about their runes, that's pretty standard here. We've got a nice grass page with Demolish, Second Wind Overgrowth, and Cosmic and Cookies. You wouldn't take Cookies anymore, but this was the wood patch, so it's going to be the best in slot. And for the Nara here, it's pretty similar. Bone Plating really good up against Jax, and then Alacrity and Cut Down as his secondary. So I will warn you, there's a little bit of a lane swap in the early points of this game, but it only lasts for about 3 minutes. So we can see here, the reason they want a lane swap, even though the top matchup doesn't care, us top laners don't care about our matchups, but the bot matchup, Jhin and Poppy up against Kalista and Nico, pretty unplayable, so they wanted to swap out of it. So we can see, the bot lane comes here, AD carry and top lane together to start out the lane, and Poppy goes mid pretty much just to get level 2. So you'll see why shortly, where top and AD just pushing this wave as fast as they can to deny farm, and then Poppy, the second she's going to get level 2, you'll see very shortly, she goes down to bottom. So we'll see on the very last minion of this wave here, just in range, just waiting patiently to get level 2. As soon as she gets it, straight down to bottom, so that's really hard for her to get dived. So you can also see, she hasn't skilled W or Q, so that if they go onto the dive, she can skill W in a hurry, or if Vi tries to Q her. So good on T1, trying to block her approach to get back to tower, but it's Poppy, pretty hard to kill with Flash W and E, and she was able to dodge the Nico E. And as for top lane here, they just got the waves between the tower, bash down the tower a little bit, and then Bin TP's back on the cannon wave, so he won't miss that big stack cannon. They thought about diving still, but the defense from Poppy and Jax having E made it so they couldn't really do it, so they just disengaged and Zeus TP'd back top. But here, this AD carry needs to support to babysit him. Jhin cannot lane against Gnar, so he instantly recalls. He's home anyway, so it's a good time to base, but they want to be swapping back the lanes now. So Bin, after he kills the last minion in bottom, or gets the last amount of XP, then he goes back to top. He does lose a little bit, which feels a bit bad, but if you're curious about the XP, Bin is just 1 minion off 4, and Zeus is just a little bit over, and same with bot lane, the Jhin has a little bit of an XP lead over Kalista, so it's relatively even. So finally we get to see the lane, and you can see Bin is going to be slow pushing this wave and looking for a hard push. It's D-Shield Boots here versus D-Shield Boots, so pretty standard. Boots rush here, and he jumps onto Zeus just to really pressure him and get this wave in as much as he can. And then we'll see here, after he crashes this wave, even though he just based and came back, he chooses to recall again. He is weak-sided with Vi being top, and also he can't really do anything here. He can't trade onto Gnar, he can't really trim the wave and punish versus Mega Gnar level 5, so he might as well just base and pick up a couple extra items and get his HP back. So come straight back to lane, rushing tabbies in this game, quite good into Gnar Vi of course, and now he's just going to be collecting this big stack wave. He can't contest it with a Mega Gnar here, and he knows Zeus is close to getting level 6, so he doesn't want to take a trade here. I see a lot of top laners, they come back to lane, and they walk up to hit minions trying to play the game. But with the wave coming back towards him, he knows Zeus has the XP advantage, so he's going to tick level 6 first. And also Mega Gnar is going to have a lot of threat onto him with Vi top. So he's just going to sit back here, not take any type of trade, and make sure he doesn't miss this huge stack cannon wave. So Vi was able to get grubs from the kind of the ping pong of waves from the lane swaps, and the enemy jungler was bot, late to getting him. So she did pick up a couple grubs, but 2-for-1 trade, not too bad. So we can see here, Bin just catching the wave, and then now using this timer to base himself, so he doesn't miss his back window, he can pick up his tier 2s. Really standard on Gnar to rush tier 2 boots. On Jax it's more unusual, but in a game like this with lane swaps you are pretty poor, so it's going to be, and versus auto-attacking AD top jungle, it's going to be a good buy for him regardless. So slow pushing this wave into a hard push here, trying to push as much as he can. Now this is where Zeus does something quite impressive for the lane, where this is a pretty big stack cannon. It's going to be quite scary to try freeze it, so instead of freezing it, he actually blocks it from under the tower, abusing the fact that he's versus a melee champ, and Jax can't really hit him here. He's allowing the melees and the cannon to hit tower, but you'll notice he doesn't let the caster minions reach tower range, and he's also bullying Bin at the same time. He's kind of egging him on to jump onto me, like jump onto me with your stun here, and then he'll flick him into the tower, but of course Bin respects, but he's able to, even though the cannon and melees hit tower, the casters are here. One thing about this is it will deny a wave, because it's really hard for Jax to hit the wave here. However, it's not going to be a permanent freeze. Jax can't force a wave in here versus Mega Gnar with the wave casters under tower. Of course, Jax can't hit that, but it's not going to be a permanent freeze, so it's not going to be the end of the world, just to soak some XP, and he just uses this time to base. The wave's coming back to him slowly. It's a painful bounce back, but it is a bounce back nonetheless, so he's okay to accept this and pick up his tier 2 boots instead. Now here, Normally he would just walk back to lane, but he TP'd to the action here. TP'd to mid tower to try get involved, but Faker played it kind of crazy. He was able to pick up the kill, and he died in the end without Jax needing to be there. But that's why he TP'd. The wave was coming back to him anyway, and it would take a long time, so he was in no rush to go back top. But it worked out in his favor. He was able to adapt and fix the bad state of mid for Knight, and even pick up 2 tower plates for himself. So he was able to adapt for a wasted TP, but the situation ended up being good for him. So Zeus, really good use of trying to proc demolish here, gets demolished on this big stack cannon, and if Bin went onto him on that timer, he would have just got gnarled into the wall and chunked to half, so he had to respect. Maybe the second that Zeus dropped a mini, he could have gone for a trade, but he knows Zeus is going to base anyway here. It is fun to jump onto your opponent and beat them down, but if he jumps on here and takes a trade, Zeus is going to base regardless anyway, so it's no point for Bin to waste a big chunk of his mana pool and maybe even lose a bit of HP, because Zeus would just base in the end anyway. So really good back timing and wave control from both top laners here, and then Bin doesn't want to miss his time as well. Hard pushes this and bases. The reason he hard pushed this one, normally he'd want to stay. However, his bot lane is switching to top because the next objective is Void Grubs. Dragon's not for another 4 minutes. So if they swap their bot lane here, then they can stop T1 from being able to get 5 grubs. So the bot lane had first move, they're able to get it, and Bin goes bottom. Now has to answer Bin here, because if he doesn't, you don't want to give 2 or 3 plates to a Jax, and also if he TP's bottom here, then Bin can just push in this wave and rotate up. So Zeus has to walk here as a first resort. So Bin instantly clears the wave and moves, already knowing Zeus is going to respond to this wave, and he's looking to collapse on the fight. So the enemy team knows Zeus is probably calling it. You got to respect Jax, and they see him on the wave here, so they don't take this fight. So because of Bin's hover up there, his team was able to get Void Grubs. It did work out a little bit good for Zeus individually, but as a team, he secured his team the winning fight if it were to happen, and because T1 respected well, they got Void Grubs regardless, so a good result for the team, even if it does feel a little bad for Bin individually. CS is pretty even though, Zeus with a 10 lead, partly because of that, partly because of the lane swap. He was up about 6 in the lane swap if I remember correctly, and then that was a little bit extra, but relatively even. The gold is pretty much the same. And now he's just trying to farm it out till Triforce. At this point in the lane is quite hard for Jax. Level 9 with tier 2 boots Gnar is really hard for Jax to play into this. So he's mainly just chilling until Triforce here, and then Gumiasi rotates down, breaks the tower. So Bin just respects it quite nicely, catches the wave, and then just looks to match Zeus's base here to pick up his Sheen. So slowly stacks this wave. There's nothing happening on the map right now, so he has no incentive to push really hard. So he's just milking out the slow push so that he can catch this wave from here. If he one-shot this wave, he would have to catch the next wave from all the way up here. But if he slowly last hit it like he did here, then the next wave has more time to arrive, and Bin can just clear it very safely on his side of the map. So really intelligent wave control from him. Typically in solo queue you don't want to do that too often because it gives your opponent a timer to run around and kill your team. But in a competitive game, 5 kills in 15 minutes, that is not going to happen. So slowly builds up this really big cannon wave. He's got the level lead as well. Faker can't contest, and then clears this wave and bases. So now from this point, heading back onto the map, you always want to be putting your strongest side laning champion on the opposite side of the next objective. So next objective here is Dragon, so we want to be putting Bin top. And because Bin is not spiked now, Zeus has Triforce, Bin does not from that tower gold. He really doesn't want to fight this. His team is still posturing, and if the fight looked good, he would go in. But there's a really high chance he had no intention to fight this, and his team is just kind of wasting time here because he's just away from Triforce, and the enemy team is way more spiked. However, I really like what Zeus did on this timing, where instead of running straight top and then going to TPing to Dragon, I'm guessing his teammate called him here because he went to top initially, but instead of going straight to top and then TPing to Dragon, he goes to top first, plays for the fight, and then TPs back top to stop Jax getting anything. So it's a lot better to use your TP in that way, so you're actually at the fight before it begins and not TPing in late when the fight is already pretty much over. So we can see the second they see Gnar TP, they were expecting it. Ari TP'd behind, ready to punish, and then Faker was also expecting that, or maybe he's really good at reacting, probably both, and he TP's in to defend the Gnar here. So really cool stuff to see from the mid laners getting involved inside, and now Bin is mainly wanting to wait until Triforce before he makes his next play, as he's just not spiked yet. So run straight bottom, plays a bit greedy here, plays for the wave, plays for a jungle camp, just trying to get his Triforce as soon as he can, and as soon as he's got it, he bases, because he doesn't want any type of fight to happen when he doesn't have his Triforce. So runs bottom here, wasn't able to be involved in that play, went well regardless, and now Zeus wins the side, so he's able to just get pressure. He wins the side dependent on his mega. If he's got good mega, like 60 mega, or he's in mega form, Jax can't do anything. But if Nara's freshly exhausted, then Jax can beat him. So they both have to play around that cooldown there. So we can see here he's just pushing in the wave, and then we see some action. Bin with a great TP flank behind them, and now they're overextended. So he's going to be looking to get involved here. So instantly jumps onto Owner here and pops his E up just to not take any damage. Flashes onto Callista. Chain CCs with the Skarner here, able to pick up a nice kill. So I'll play it on normal speed up. TP's behind. He maybe could have held his Q a little bit longer. I think he was afraid of just getting knocked up and chain CC'd by Nico. So jumps in straight away, trying to stop them from escaping. And then flashes to guarantee the stun, ulti, and then burst down the Callista. So good kill by him. And now, one thing I really liked about this fight, the second he took the wave, he instantly ran back to bottom. So good on him. This fight wouldn't have been too good for Zeus because he just popped Mega, and the Mega just expired as he arrived. So not really good timing from him. That was a pretty big problem from him this game. That time, that was a fight that he couldn't really see coming because there was no neutral objective or anything, so you have to feel for him a little bit. But T1 just went a little bit too crazy, and Bin was able to capitalize quite nicely with a good TP flank. So goes back to bottom here. He just used everything. It's time to farm, push out bottom, push out the next wave, look for golems as well, I'm pretty sure, and just try to get as much gold as he can for the next play. So I'll skip it till he bases. He's low mana here, he definitely has to. And if you're curious about his build, he went Zhonya's as a second item with Seekers here. It's really good and competitive, especially Zhonya's on Jax, and you can go out in solo queue. I'd recommend him more as a third or a fourth item in solo queue, but in this game, his main goal is not to jump on the opponent and bash everyone down. He wants to be creating as much space as he can, and Zhonya's can allow you to get 2 E's off as well, and waste a lot of time. So good pickup by him in this game, and now he's looking to push in bottom. Zeus here, he's got a pretty bad mega, so Bin jumps on him straight away, like we talked about. If the Nar mega bar is bad, he can look to win the side, so Zeus has to call in Faker yet again to save him, but then Bin's mid lane Knight comes in as well, so it's a bit of a 2v2 standoff, but because there's no vision, it's pretty hard to hit that blind REQ, so they're able to just equalize. But because Knight lost his ulti here, and top mid got chunked, they were unable to contest his dragon anymore, so they had to give it. So now T1 is on soul point. So basing here, coming straight back into bottom, we can see here, this is the timer where the next objective is going to be Baron, and BLG wants something to happen before Dragon is up. If Dragon Soul and Baron is up, whatever side they control, if they control Baron, enemy team controls Dragon, and vice versa, they don't want to give either objective. It feels quite bad to give Soul or Baron if in the event where you have to trade, so they want to be getting some work done now before that Dragon spawns. So Bin knows exactly what to do. He pushes in bottom. He's looking to pressure Zeus as hard as he can during that exhausted timer when the Mega drops out. So we'll see here. Zeus knows that too. He tries to kill this wave as fast as he can and then back out, but Bin waits just for the Mega to expire and then goes on him here. I really like this combo here. He led with movement, walked towards somebody with Jax. You don't always have to lead with your Q. He approaches with movement, starts beating him down, clicks backwards and then Qs in just to fake him out that he wasn't going to jump. Gets the burst down ulti W, tries to dodge the Nai, but pretty hard from that range. And then here goes for the flash W, auto W. And then Zeus flashes away, QW coming up, QW Zhonya. So the disrespect, the gold slam, really good by him, nice solo kill inside, and he's able to start to blow the game wide open by snowballing through side lane. So pushes in this wave, gets the tower as well, gets so much gold from that kill, the tower, the waves, and now he's on the track to pick up his second item really quickly. So grabs his Zhonya's here. If he didn't use Seekers in that fight, then he wouldn't go Zhonya's most likely, but because the Seekers was broken, he wants to reset the cooldown and have it available again. So now, coming back onto the map, eats Golem straight away. Really good to be selfish on Jax in this type of game, and he's going to be looking to do the same thing again. Doesn't go to his side lane straight away. He has a pretty good read on Zeus, I'm guessing. Zeus is quite aggressive, so he's going to be trying to cheese him, get behind him, use his Skarner as well, and ward jumps just to block off the Nar's escape here, as we know Nar has no flash from earlier. So dodges the Nar W, goes onto him here, pulls him with the Skarner ulti. Now Zeus does have Sterak, so he is a lot tankier than the previous player, but they're still able to pick up the kill. Both mid laners coming in again. I'd say the top laners are the stars of the show, and the mid laners just helping them out here, but they're able to get a great fight. So I'd say from this point in the game, BLG's in such a good spot. Bin has completely exploded the game, I would say, but this is where the throw comes in. So he bases here, TP's in. This is normally a good timer in a lot of games to force Baron. They don't want Baron and Dragon up same time, and they just made a pick on mid and top. They TP in. But this is where having a Jhin on your team can hold you back a lot. I'm a big hater of Jin, especially in solo queue, because your Baron damage is so low. Jin with this build especially, static shiv rapid fire cannon, your damage to Baron is so low. If they have any other AD carry here, maybe not any other AD carry, but if they just swap ADs here, Rage Blade or Callista, they guarantee get this Baron. So I completely understand why they went for it, but we can see the damage is just so low, it's so hard for them to get it. But time to watch the teamfight execution. So Bin trying to get a creative flank on his champion, really good. And Poppy rushed into her ulti here. That's the first major mistake of the fight. Even though if you let Poppy ulti time out, it goes on a 15-second cooldown, not the full 2 minutes. It's still a bad spell to waste because 15 seconds can be a long time, especially in this big Baron fight. So we can see here, Jax jumps over the wall playing purely for the fight. He realizes the damage is too low, and he's looking to get a creative flank. But from this point of view, Owner, charging Q gets the max range ulti onto Jin here, just out of position. So it's a little bit unfortunate for Bin. He just needed 5 or 6 more seconds to get into position before the fight started, so he's a little bit lagging behind, but he still plays the fight exceptionally well. So they blow up the Jin instantly, and the Ahri couldn't get much value. She got bumped aside, but Bin here starting the fight with movement yet again, holding on to Q, fighting Kyria here. You can see his character is facing the Nico, but then he turns and Qs onto these two, gets a 2-man stun, bursts down the Callista. So he did his best in this fight. He doesn't have Zhonya's because of the earlier fights on cooldown, so he couldn't really do anything more. But the fight was really hard. Amazing play by Owner here. Max range queuing over the wall, getting the ulti pixel perfect onto Jin, and the ulti also hit the Ahri, but Ahri doesn't have ulti, Jax doesn't have Zhonya's, so this is just not a good Baron fight. You're not at full power, even though they don't have Faker here. A lot of your champions are missing major abilities, no Skarner ulti, no Ahri ulti, Poppy wasted ulti too. I can see why they went for it, especially if Poppy ulti usage was good, but it's just way too risky when their Baron damage is so low. So I'd say Bin did the best in the circumstance. If you're wondering how Zeus played the fight, he just front to back, just auto-attacking. He didn't really get to use Mega until the fight was already over. So just hitting the closest target, just running people down, the Gnar special, and this fight was unfortunately a loss, and T1 is able to secure Baron off of it. So now, moving on to the next sequence, the Dragon Soul is spawning soon, so both teams are going to be fighting for it. And coming up to the fight, Zeus makes a pretty big error. It didn't end up mattering, but we can see he's got really good Mega Bar here, but he's stacked on the blue. He's just hitting the blue as he walked past, and he popped his Mega way too early. Maybe he assumed, if we put it from his point of view, that the enemy team were all in here. We saw them they did have tempo, so I understand why he popped it, but you can pop Mega in a hurry anyway. He should just briefly hold on to it. He's not the primary engage on this comp anyway, so he should have held on to it, but it didn't end up mattering too much for him. And now Bin is a little bit behind as he was the last to die. And now here we can see Bin's trying to get into a nice creative flank position. He chooses top side over bot side as he didn't really have any vision. It's a little bit scary for him. So he goes from here, and with Gnar not having Mega, it is a little bit scary and puts a lot of pressure on T1 to play it very slowly. Now they're playing well around it. They're waiting for his exhaustion bar, his tired bar to run out. And now Bin is trying to take over this bush as T1 doesn't really want to fight it, and he wants to get into a nice flank position. So we'll see here. We'll zoom out a little bit. Zeus's bar is finally back up, but it's not really up in time to the point where they can go in right now before the Dragon Soul is smited. So they did manage to steal it. Good smite by Hui, but we can see now. Poppy charge ulti, got a 2-man ulti here, and this is why, when I watched the game live, I thought Bin made a pretty big mistake, and he did, but I understand why after watching the VOD back, so we'll put it onto his vision. So here. They're going for the dragon, he's in a good flank position, and we get a 2-man Poppy ulti. Jungle and top get knocked away into space. So Bin seeing this, he probably assumed they would get knocked all the way back here, right? He probably assumed they were out of the fight. So he used that knowledge to move up here, but if we put it onto God Vision right now, they're right here. They didn't really get knocked that far back, so he probably overestimated how much time it would take for them to get there. And right now, everyone is killing Faker. If Bin just held this position here and stared at them, it made it hard for the Vi and the Gnar to approach. This would have been a pretty good fight. But because he went in too much, so while they're wasting time on Fake, while they're killing Faker, everyone else is killing him, and he got chain CC'd before he could get his ulti off. So if you check the vision, it's a pretty unlucky. He should still have respected, of course, but a little bit of an unlucky mistake. But if you watch it with God Vision, it does look like he's just completely trolling. But we got to give him the benefit of the doubt. We know how good Bin is at holding these positioning and not rushing into it. But the Poppy ulti is a variable he didn't really keep in mind, that the distance just wasn't as long as he expected. So the fight ends up being a wipe. If you're curious about how Zeus did, he's just beating up Bin here, chain CCing before he can get the Zhonya's off, and then goes for, originally he went for a flank here, but he changed his mind, I'm pretty sure. joined his team because he saw the fight was happening down here, and just jumps onto the Jin and beats down this no damage ADC that doesn't do anything, and then just starts running everyone down. So now at this point, 2 item spike really strong. If you're curious about the build, the Jax is going Wit's End because they have so much CC. You probably wanted Tenacity here. Sterix probably would have been a little bit better in my opinion. The magic damage is so poor, but not too bad. And then Nara's going into a Randuin's. So picks up the bot tower, greeds for the camps, there's a special, and then bases and heads onto the map for the final sequence. Now, here, nothing really happened for 5 minutes. They just utilized Baron to take over the jungle, try to get some towers down. They didn't really make a lot of progress, but the final team fight here was where the game exploded, so we will skip ahead a little bit. So I'll put on God Vision, Dragon up in 30, Baron up in 20. So T1 wanted to get the Dragon Soul before Baron was up, so they played in position here. So again, Zeus wasting his Mega just before the game-changing or the game-deciding team fight. A little bit of a mistake. And then Bin also made a mistake here too, where this wave doesn't matter. You're not going to push the wave and make somebody answer. The Dragon Soul's already up. So he should be moving him. Just one wave too greedy, it does happen. It's really hard to see this in an actual game, that you don't have time, so I do feel for him. But we can see by the time the fight started, by the time he TP's in, it's already too late. All the ultis are used, his jungler's 1 HP, it's already too late. But he TP's in here, and he still manages to play it quite well. So again, leading with movement, starts fighting, really nice Qs onto Kalista, but doesn't QE. He Qs onto it, clicks to the side to get the stun onto Na and Kalista at the same time, which I thought was really cool. Ulti, and then even here he's W Zhonya, so cancels the W animation with Zhonya, so he gets the kill, or pops the GA, and Zhonya's at the same time. Maybe a little bit delayed, but that's what he's going for. And he's able to get a lot of work done in this fight. But the Faker Poppy ulti here was just too clutch, where he came in, popped E onto Poppy, stole the ulti, and knocked the only other strong member on BLG away, the 3.5 item Death Cap Ahri. So Ahri was not able to follow up all the work Bin was doing here. If Ahri can follow this up with Jin ulti and Bin, they could get a lot of work done, because Poppy ulti from blue team also knocked carry away. So the fight maybe could have been a 1. It's quite hard, they're down a lot of gold, and the ADC gap is pretty big at this point, but maybe if Faker didn't hit such a good ulti, or if Knight flashed it, they could have done something. But I'd say from this point of the game it is quite tricky. They are a little bit outscaled. So they get Dragon Soul, they rotate to Baron. The enemy team knows if we give Soul and Baron, the game's going to be really hard, so they try to contest. And then Faker and Keria here, hard to tell with the nameplate bait as he swapped into Vi, but they get a really good engage. So it goes in, pops E, burns the Jin flash, and then Keria goes W, pro to bout, flash everything in his back pocket, and then Owner follows up quite nicely, Zeus with the double jump, and they're able to clean up the rest of them. And I was really surprised in the moment that they ended here. It's quite cool to see. They just have one cannon minion, next wave is coming. One thing you'll notice here is Keria actually protected this wave to make sure nobody blocked it, which I thought was quite impressive in a high pressure scenario where everyone's screaming to end the game. He had the foresight to go back and defend the wave. So nice by him. And the enemy team only has the tanks alive. Honor's trying to block the wave here, but they just zone him away. And he did stall the cannon wave, so he did the best he could. Great Skarner ulti. That's why I thought they couldn't end. Great Skarner ulti, great Jax ult, it's done. But they're still able to end the game. They're just way too strong at this point, and it being a 5v3, they're able to just barely end the game. But you can see, this game, even though T1 won, this is why I believe Bin is the best top laner at Worlds, or best top laner in the world at the moment, and Zeus getting my number 2 spot, even in this game as a loss, and he did make a couple mistakes, but he made so much work done in this game. He put BLG in the spot where they could win the game. He did dominate Bin inside, Zeus inside, and he did get that solo kill, but I would say he made a lot of great plays in this game, put them in a good spot, but T1 as a team did play a lot better, and they secured the dub. Alright everyone, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed that absolute banger of a game. It was quite fun to watch it live, but also fun to break it down and review, pick up a lot of details that I missed in the moment, so hopefully you learnt a lot as well. And let's wait and see, maybe Zeus gets a first Bin in a best of 5 and get his revenge, because so far at both of the Worlds events, I would say Bin has had the upper hand over him, even though Zeus has a little bit of a team gap, so let's wait and see what happens, and hopefully I'll see you all then.